here. I am Kanshi Agrawal. I'm the founder of Netri Foundation, which is India's first incubator promoting women in political ecosystems. I am extending my heartfelt gratitude to OICSD and to Cyril Schaff Scholarship for enabling and giving me this platform to be speaking about my work here today. So in 2019, I became compelled with the solution to find a solution for the abysmal representation of women in Indian politics. And I was asking this question that 50% of women in Indian population, but barely under 15% in the parliament. So why are women not in politics? Our work largely revolved around training and giving them support in mentoring and providing them networks, because there are some evident factors that lead to women not being in politics. But only 2 years later, I was asking an even more pertinent question. Why should women even get into politics? Why should they get there? And the question was prompted by, I was in Chitrakoot, and this is Nirmala. Nirmala was a 27-year-old candidate for state legislative elections. She was thrown on the ground in the middle of the city, beaten up by another party's candidate and harassed. Her house, and she's a very poor Dalit woman, her house, which barely had a ceiling, whatever was left of it was also taken down. And I was reaching for a campaign. She's a Netri alum. I was going to support the campaign and help her strategize a little bit more, but this is the day that I was reaching there. So according to a research by UN Women, 9 out of 10 women refrain to get into politics. And that really is a question, right? Why should women get into politics? I was coming from another campaign in Meerut, where another legislative assembly candidate had a very different experience, because apparently she comes from a political family, right? There are some numbers to make note of. 67% of the women said, when asked in a survey, that what happens to you when you are in the campaign trail or when you are in politics, that the perpetrators are other male contestants from different political parties. But 58% said that they are their own party colleagues. And that is why sometimes women who come from dynastic families prefer or have easier access compared to non-dynastical women to get into politics, because their fathers, brothers, and other family members are the top bosses. And if anybody had to create a harm to them, they would think twice. So violence is not only a barrier, it is a short expulsion factor if you got into politics. This is when we started the work in 2019. We created a framework to understand what are the entry, survival, and success barriers to people participating in politics. So there is some amount of political violence anyway. But nature of political violence also becomes gendered, and you see the different markers for it, right? So threat to life, family, public harassment, and intimidation, you anyway expect that you get into politics. But it becomes more gendered, and it has some characteristics that makes it more gendered, that there is character assassination, psychological abuse, also domestic violence as a response to your increased public participation. What it led to was a little bit of my advocacy work, which is that I started writing about bringing politics and political parties as a workplace under POSH. Sexual harassment of women at workplace, Prevention, Prohibition and Redressal Act of 2013 is a legal framework that adequately provides for the protection of women at workplace. Who does it apply to? In general, it applies to any workplace which has 10 or more than around 10 members. It is mandated to constitute an internal complaints committee, so that if there are cases of harassment in workplace, they can be taken care of. In the Vishaka was the state of Rajasthan 1997, gender equality includes protection from sexual harassment and right to work with dignity, which is a universally recognized basic human right. That was upheld, right? But in 2022, very recently, Kerala High Court saw that or observed political parties which are not having any employer-employee relationship with its member and which are not carrying on with any private venture, undertaking, enterprises, institution, shall not be considered a workplace. And that is why political parties are not under workplaces currently. But this is the physical violence part of it. This is in 2023 that we started understanding that politics as a realm is not only physical, it is also now done online. A lot of politics is also promulgated by a presence online, and it spills over. So we wanted to understand the impacts of online violence on all political violence, voices, but how also it spills over in offline spaces. For those of you who are interested in the research methodology, I have that left side of the slide for you, and we can talk about how the process was done. But Indian sampling story is a little bit different. We did this in partnership with the Technical University of Munich, and it was a tri-national research in Germany, Brazil, and India. In India, we did not only survey women or men politicians, we expanded the sample to people trying to get into politics as well, or have a political opinion online. And that is why we have seven other categories: journalists, activists, political professionals, influencers, academicians, and student reps. The first finding, as you would see, which is generally overall the nature of online hate and violence. I just wanted to put this slide here, that what is the nature of this violence, right? It comments about your personal appearances. There are threats of physical violence and sexual violence, and you would see that there are some threats and violences more pronounced for women. The first finding also tells us that between India, Germany, and Brazil, women's ability in India to spot and report violence is quite in alignment with the social norm of lack of awareness, thinking that violence is an occupational hazard, and a very high tolerance compared to other countries. So they would report more,